Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Do it live.
Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Welcome to a Hurrdat production of Wired Axcess podcast. I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha, and to my left, I have alumni from Papillion-La Vista South Titans, now going into college at South Dakota State. Go Jackrabbits. Caiden Fredrick, welcome to the show. How are you doing, my guy?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
You know, it's very exciting to see the reactions outside of a state. But before we could get to your outside of the state program, we got to talk about what you've done in state. How long have you done track?
I've been doing track and field for the past 6 years.
What ended up sparking your interest in that?
Well, when I was in middle school, when I started, I wanted to do pretty much like every activity that I could, and I didn't really like running. So my grandpa told me to try shot put and discus. So I started that in 7th grade and then kind of stuck.
Now, when you started in 7th grade, be honest, I know you were trying to do all these different things, but did you actually want to do track and field together? Because I know when I asked my daughter, I said, hey, in 7th grade, we're going to try something every semester or every tri-semester as they do. Track and field, she said, I'm not doing that. And then she ended up loving it. So I'm just wondering if that was kind of your experience.
At first, yeah, I wanted to just like try it out. And then once I started, I really liked it. So
where did you learn the most about track and what you were doing with the discus and the shot put?
Definitely when I got into high school, when I started getting like coached by the high school coaches. And then also I was working with some private coaches too.
Now, for track and field, how did you find these private coaches?
A guy that I would compete with, he was pretty much my only competitor this year in the state. His dad was a D1 throwing coach for like 20 plus years. So I started working with him. And there's a place in Lincoln called Trackville. And I started working there the kind of winter off season after my junior year. And that really helped a lot.
Now, did you play other sports growing up?
Yeah, I played pretty much every sport I could really get into. Like,
so when you switch over to track and field, what do you give up for track and field?
I didn't really have to give up anything because once I got older, I kind of focused more on I was in like football and track. So those are the only two that I really enjoyed the most, and they didn't conflict with each other at all.
See, and that's always good because one, they're opposite of season, but they also kind of prepare you for the next season of the other. When you look at your time at track and field and you look at your football, what is the biggest strength that both of them gave you for each other?
Football definitely helped me stay in shape for track. Because even though I'm just throwing, I still have to be explosive through the ring and just in pretty good shape. And then lifting for both the sports too helped me a lot. So,
and then of course, is there anything that when you were doing football, did you ever think of possibly something could have happened to ruin your track and field love?
That was always kind of on the back of my mind, but
I'm not saying
really
playing scared, but you still got to think of it. I mean, if you're really loving something, and putting that dedication into a hard sport like football, right?
Yeah, my senior year, I wasn't going to play football because I didn't want to risk anything for track. So I was starting to focus more on track. And then once I got to like the middle of the summer, I just missed football and I was kind of getting out of shape. So I decided to go back to football, and I really enjoyed that. But I never got any bad injury risking my track career.
And when you think of your support at South Dakota State, what was their word about you playing something like football? Were they for it, telling you to experience it all?
I mean, at that point, I hadn't really been talking with much coaches for track and field for college. But when I did start the recruiting process, they asked me if I was going to keep playing football. And I said, no, I was going to focus on track. And they seemed pretty happy that I was going to focus more on track in college.
Well, and you have one other thing that some people, if you've never seen it, if you never knew what you did before or after, the dedication, the grind, the workout is show choir.
Yeah.
They don't consider it a sport. It's not sanctioned by the schools.
No.
And I've been to many of them, and to me, it's okay that it's not sanctioned, because then sometimes the challenge is watching the different judges, and it really makes you work harder each time. What was your experience with show choir, and what did it do for your total body?
Show choir is just a lot of fun, and it's a lot of dancing and coordination, and having to be disciplined with doing the choreography, I think helped a lot with discus, because it's kind of, for throwing the discus, it's a lot more about form, and it's kind of like a lot of people refer to it as like a ballerina technique, and having a little bit of a background in dance with show choir definitely helped me.
And did you do it all 4 years, or how long have you been doing show choir?
I did show choir for 6 years, so I did it in middle school and high school.
And you saw the results from show choir turn into results on the field. How did the field work go back to your show choir?
I'd say, like, because show choir, you move in like the whole time when you're in the show and on stage. It's pretty much nonstop cardio, and having to have those moves like precise, and a lot of his balance too really helped me. Kind of correlated to throwing the discus. So.
And what brought your love into the music and the dancing?
I was always kind of surrounded by music at home, because my mom always loved listening to it. And then my older sister, who's 2 years older than me, she started doing show choir also, and I would always go to competitions to watch. And then I decided to do it, and I just thought it was a lot of fun. So.
And if you could give an idea, I think one thing that people kind of have a hard thing to grasp and understand is the dedication to a school schedule that you have to do, especially your senior year. Like, some people be like, oh, you get a lack off some. You do, but not when you're possibly trying to do some college courses, along with having show choir practice early morning. You have either football practice late at night. You have track and field where you're still trying to stay conditioned. What is it like in a week of your most hectic week with trying to combine everything and still maintain the high schooling grade that you possess?
As long as I make time and really focus on it, it's not much of an issue. So, like, the busiest week would be like towards the end of football season, when show choir really starts getting busy. Because I was in the group that I was in, we didn't have to get to school early in the morning to practice, but I'd have to get there early for weights for football. So I'd get to school at like 7:30 every day. I would be there, and then I would have football practice that usually ended at like 6-ish every day. And then 2 times a week for show choir, I would have show choir rehearsal that started at 6:30. So I'd go straight from being at school all day to football, and then I'd go to straight to show choir practice right after that, pretty much.
How do you maintain the fuel for that? How do you keep yourself get enough nutrition? Because obviously you're going to do weights. You're trying to stay where you're at. Mm-hmm. How do you keep the nutrition during that time?
I would eat a lot. I spent a lot of money at school for lunch, so that was a lot I did. I drink a lot of water. Anytime I get a chance, I'd be drinking water. I'd always eat after workout, and then I'd eat between football and show choir.
Now, did you see your body and yourself as an investment when you're doing this? Because sometimes some people's dedication to themselves, and maybe you didn't realize it, is looking at the investment that you're constantly putting. As you brought up very key things: water, the amount that you're eating. I'm charging it out the game for lunch. I'm not mad because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the investment paid off that you gave yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I would always pay attention to what I was putting in my body, and I'd be taking supplements to help me get more muscle and get bigger for football and track. So,
and when you look around your surroundings, obviously there is a good supporting staff at the school between teachers, coaches. How do you feel like the relationship was able to be held where both show choir knew your importance to both track and field, but then your sports, football and track and field, everybody knew your importance to show choir. How is that resemble? Because the way that I've seen it, some coaches accept those type of things, and some are like, come on, man, we want you on the field. How did it feel through your whole 4 years of high school?
I definitely kind of had a mix of coaches and being very supportive, knowing that it was important to me. And then I had a couple coaches that were kind of like, come on, man, just you're in this right now, do it. But my coaches and directors were always very good at communicating with each other if I had to miss something or be late to something. And very few times did it really conflict. But I was able to communicate with them and talk to them about my schedule and what was important to me. And they were very helpful about that.
And when you think of talking about your schedule, obviously those are things that people talk about when they're beyond your age. Who gave you that kind of guidance to be that dedicated to talk amongst the group? Who was the one that kind of showed you that this is, because that was the one thing I always try to tell my kids, your communication to your coaches will matter. Your communication to teachers matter. No matter what I want to do, I'll never as a father go, why is my kid not playing? I will make them go, what can I do to get playing time? Mm-hmm. So they understand. What was kind of your guidance when you look at that?
Definitely both my parents, especially my mom. They would always tell me to communicate with my coaches. And once I got into high school, they said, I'm old enough now to take care of myself. So if there's an issue, it's pretty much my problem to get solved. And I quickly learned how to do that and resolve any problems that I ever had.
And when you look through your 4 years of high school, what was some sacrifices that you had to do in order to get to where you are today that maybe the average high schooler might not understand or might not think that they should sacrifice? Because you're going to a D1 college to do something you love, but you couldn't have went there without sacrificing something that maybe an experience. Is there anything that you could look back on?
Well, when I was my freshman year, I was still trying to be in every activity that I could be. So my freshman year, I was in marching band, powerlifting, football.
You said choir, marching band. Hold on. Before we get to the further, there's no way you could do the others with marching band. That had to have been probably the hardest thing right there because that is a dedicated
That
group
is the most time commitment activity that I've ever been a part of. Pretty much every day I would be at school for nearly 12 hours. And then on Fridays for game days for football, I'd have to get to the school before 7 a.m. for early band practice. And that would be about almost 2 hours every morning. And then I'd get through my school day, and then I go to football practice right after. And then on Fridays was game days. So I had to go from football practice to get ready for marching band to do the show. So I'd do the pregame and then our show for the whole game. And I'd usually get home 10 or 11 o'clock on a Friday. So I'd be at school for about 15 hours.
And what other sacrifices during that year as you were trying to get through all of them? Did you feel like you were able to give everyone the 100% of Caiden every time?
Most times, yeah. A lot of times I'd be really tired. But yeah, freshman year was definitely really busy. And I knew that after my freshman year, I decided to get out of marching band because it was a huge time commitment, and I wasn't fully invested into it as I was with my other activities.
And do you see when you're doing these other activities, is that kind of what you're seeing with your teammates, of where the more dedicated they kind of either stay with it all for, and then the ones that kind of feel like they can't invest all the way are slipping away each year, getting less and less? How does that help you continue to grow the team, whether it is track and the same people that have the same love as you, or whether it is football and the same teammates that are there for the senior years? What are those moments like?
Yeah, freshman year, there's always a bunch of people that do football. We had a huge team. And then you see for pretty much every activity, as people go through high school, there starts to be less and less people in your grade in that activity, because people tend to find out what they don't like or what they do like. And when you get to the senior year, the people who are still in that activity, that those people care and they're invested. And like with my teammates, I've never had a problem like my senior year with people not being fully committed because they've gone through 4 years of it. It's obvious that they're committed to it, and they're going to put their all their motivation and attention towards it.
And when you look at your 4 years at let's talk the football level, what's some of the dedicated leaders that helped you get to be who you were?
Like specifically who?
Yeah.
I'd say for football, we had our 4 captains this year were Matt Thompson, Aiden Barnby, Trace Marco, and Kalen Osler. All those guys have done multiple sports throughout high school. Trace being a 3-sport varsity athlete for like 2 or 3 years. They all were very encouraging. Some more vocal than others, but for track, both Kale and Matt Thompson were both throwers with me for the past couple years, and they're both on varsity this year, and they're both football captains. So we all kind of knew what it was like doing like football and track. And it was nice to have some like teammate camaraderie.
And when you look at the leaders like Matt and Kale, and then you go to track and field, and obviously you guys did the same field activities. How do you think that made you guys some of the top in the state?
I'd say definitely having to put your kind of trust and faith in the leaders for that sport. Because for football, like on the field, it was no doubt that Matt and Kale were two of the best in their position and on the field. And then we get to track, and they're both solid throwers, but looking at the distance, there's people who threw farther than them, and they have to trust both the coaches and the teammates. And we all improved so much this year. Like as a team, we had the best throwers in our school's history. For discus, we had 3 of our throwers this year were in the top 10 in our school history. Kale being one of the discus throwers, and then Henry Sapinski being another one. And he's another great football player too and leader. And then for shot put, it was me. Henry was also a top 10 in school history for shot put. And then we had another guy, Max Pfizer. This was his first year ever throwing, and he made it to state, and he made finals for state for shot put, but he was the one guy that didn't place in finals. So he was just like 5 inches away from getting a medal at state.
And so when you think of your year in football, what legacy do you think the class of 2023 left for the Titans?
I'd say we were probably some of the most committed and motivated athletes in my time at the school. This was one of our best years for football in school history, and people are going to look back and just remember it being fun. So beating the Monarchs 29-3.
Nothing wrong with throwing that out there.
Oh,
Nothing wrong at all. Yeah. And then if you look at your show choir legacy, what do you think, looking back in the past 4 years at Papio South and just the growth in that area?
So for show choir, like pretty much every year we've gotten so much better. I remember my freshman year, I'd always watch the varsity team or the varsity group. They would won probably like a third of their competitions. So watching them, I'd be like, these guys are so good. And then my sophomore year during COVID, we weren't able to compete at all. And then my junior year, I got into the varsity group, and we were undefeated in Nebraska in show choir. Yes. We beat every single group in Nebraska. And it was definitely, without a doubt, the best that our show choir had been in school history. And it was so fun to be able to be a part of that group. And then this year we were really good too. And with all the show choirs too, like the girls group went pretty much undefeated for 2 years.
And they got to compete in the finals for the
They were able
first
to
time.
compete in finals. They're able to perform in finals twice.
Yeah. I think if you look back on your class, especially in show choir, like compared to track and field, I mean, you guys can almost accept everybody playing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody goes to every event because you spread out the events, Football, they keep pretty much everybody, or if someone might not be tough enough to play football, they might have them become a manager and stuff like that. But they try to keep everybody intact. Show choir is one thing that people don't understand, where like they make cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And your guys' freshman year, they had to add a fourth group.
Yeah, we added a whole fourth group and
still cut 28. Still cut 28.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand is, had they not done that fourth group, where could they have been today? Who would they have been? Would it have changed your trajectory of who you are? Because not everybody was accepted back then. What do you think? Do you even remember how that all came to?
I'm definitely so grateful they added that fourth group, because I was a part of that fourth group. And if they hadn't added that group, there would have been, I think it was like probably 30 to 40 freshmen that were added to that group. And most of us we're still in show choir our senior year. A majority of us being in Titanium, the varsity group, and then a more number of those people being in Radiance, which is also pretty much a varsity group.
Oh yeah.
I was so grateful to have given that second chance. And I've talked with like directors about this too, and other kids that were in that group. We probably wouldn't be in show choir if we hadn't been given that second chance, and the talent of our whole show choir probably wouldn't be at where it's right now.
Well, and I mean, you guys graduated 54, 58 seniors.
I think it was 58. Yeah.
58 seniors. So you think of those 58 seniors back on that year of, your guys' first year. I mean, how many of those are probably the whole group? Is 30 of them, right? 30 to 34?
Yeah, nearly 30 were
a part of that
fourth group that were added. And then there's been a few people that have joined throughout high school, but yeah, majority of us were given a second chance, and it helped.
Well, now let's go to your track and field, your love, your dream. What really got you to get over the hump of, I'm just competing, to I am the competitor now?
Yeah. So, middle school, I wasn't really crazy good. I would win a few competitions or a few meets. It was just kind of to have fun. And then, freshman year, I was starting to look at like the school records, or like the freshman record. And I had goals to beat those my freshman year, and then I got canceled by COVID. Ooh. So we were about 1 week away from our first meet, and it was gone. So that was very upsetting. And then my sophomore year, I was coming back.
So real quick with the COVID part, what do you find and what do you do now that record was not available for you? What did you end up doing that summer? Did you work harder at it, even though you didn't have the opportunity? What kind of drive did that change you?
So for like the first probably few weeks of COVID, they didn't say specifically we wouldn't be coming back. So I was still throwing. I had implements of my own that I would practice. I'd go to like a park by my house and just throw. And it was a baseball diamond. So I'd be throwing in sand basically. And then when it got canceled, I was pretty upset, because it was my first high school season that it would have been. And then sophomore year, I came back, kind of had a little bit something to prove, because not many people thought I was going to be good, because I was skinny and not very strong.
When you already said it's all about the form, the rest will come.
It's mainly about form. So I got into first couple weeks of practice. It was kind of becoming clear that I would have been on varsity. And we had our kind of throw off basically to see who would make varsity. And I made varsity for both shot put and discus. I was the number 3 guy for shot put and the number 1 guy for discus, just by a couple feet. I had a 119 for discus, which is pretty solid beginning of the year for a sophomore. My coach after that, he said, if we could get you to 130 by the end of the year, that'd be really good.
If you think of your size at that time, do you remember what you kind of weighed and your height?
Sophomore year, I was probably 170, and I'd say maybe 6'2".
Okay.
And now I'm 210, 6'5". So
3 inches.
Yeah.
Nice. And then when was that in your junior year? That's when the change for you came, or?
I'd say sophomore year. So before my first meet, I was at like a 119 and I think like a 41 for shot put. My first meet for shot put, I threw 43. So it was a good way to start the year. Discus, I threw 146.
Wow, 20, almost 30 feet jump.
Which was pretty much came out of nowhere. My coach was surprised. My form was still not very good.
Because it's not like something you can consistently throw. You just came out of the room right there.
And then the next week I threw like 115. So it was a little bit.
See, those are some
sad.
struggles with discus and shot put that I don't think people really understand is the fact that you know what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen what you've done. You mentally feel like you haven't changed anything. But do you think when you hit that 140, your goal and mental changed to where I went that far and I could do it that easy again?
Definitely, because you hit it, you know you can do it, and you try to get more. And it took me about like a month and a half to improve that.
What was some of the mental stuff that you were going through? Was it beating you up at all, or were you okay to go, I understand the process to get to where I am? Especially since you're only a sophomore.
Yeah.
It's not like you have this full history going on.
Yeah, I was just a sophomore. I was like, just wanted to throw farther. And it was kind of hard to put my trust into my coaches because I had only really been with them like less than a year. I ended the season throwing 166, which is pretty solid for a sophomore. I broke the school record.
I was going to say 50 yards.
Yeah, almost
50 yards.
Yeah. So I ended up, it was at the state meet. I threw the 166. I got 6th at the state meet, which is really cool. I broke the school record.
And so at track, is it like wrestling where the top 6 place?
Top 8.
Top 8. So
Yeah,
track is 8, but for wrestling it's 6, I believe. Yeah, 6.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So you get to the top 8, you're at 6, you're in that sophomore year. What's your thoughts? Are you ahead of the game, or do you feel like there's a lot more still to go?
I definitely knew there was a lot more. I was just really excited because going into the season, I wasn't really expecting to do anything crazy. I don't think my coaches were either. And then qualifying for state, I threw 2 inches under the school record. So I was just really wanting to beat the school record.
If you got your shot taken from you for your freshman year, you're now going for your sophomore to beat it. You're at state. You're looking for that goal. What's the actual feeling? Is it more of I have to think more on my form, or do I have to think about how hard I want to throw it?
I was just kind of going out to have fun, honestly. My first year, I wasn't expecting to make it that far. So I was like, I'm here, might as well just enjoy it and end up however I end up. So, yeah, getting 6th was so exciting and getting a pretty solid PR. And then the next day we had shot put at a state meet, and I qualified for that too. And then I didn't do very good. I got dead last.
Oh, man.
24th place.
So when you look at a possible struggle in the shot put, does it make you want to work harder on the discus? Because I don't know, when you get to the college level, do you get to do both? Do you do just one? Is it similar? Is it different?
For college, there's 2 more events that they do too. For outdoor, they do hammer throw and javelin along with shot put and discus.
Man.
And then indoor, it'll be shot put and weight throw. So I'll be able to, they'll let me try out what I want to do. And then, so like my freshman year, I'll probably do 3 events, maybe 4. And then most people, when they get to like their junior, senior year, they kind of narrow it down to 1 or 2.
Gotcha. So you get to your junior and senior year of high school. You've already been setting records as a sophomore. Mm-hmm. I mean, how can you feel like you're going to expand on it? What can you feel? I mean, when does even the college start part for you?
Junior year was a huge improvement for shot put. I got like a PR by almost 10 feet. Okay. So I went the year before, I got 24th at state, and then junior year I got 4th at state.
Wow.
So that was
spot jump.
Yeah, that was huge. So after my junior year, I kind of knew that I was able to throw in college. I was kind of struggling with the recruitment process because I didn't really have much of a connection.
So if you think about it, how has the coaches helped did they know enough about it? Because I feel sometimes this day and age, when someone does come out of the woodworks with an art that, no one was thinking, sometimes you just don't have those resources, those go-to. Is that kind of how it went with you?
That's definitely how it felt. And then my head coach for track, Coach McLaughlin, he told me, he said, I have some connections, just give me the word and I'll email all the guys I know. And I started getting emails from, it was like pretty solid Division II colleges. And then one of my competitors in the state, his dad, Scott Kapos, he reached out to multiple colleges, and I heard back it was like less than a week later after he reached out, I heard back from South Dakota State. And I had filled out like a recruitment questionnaire and sent it to them, kind of hoping to hear back. And then they replied to me, and we started talking, and then I went over for an official visit there. And I really liked, that was like the winter of my senior year.
So, of course, I'm a guy who's in football. I know what a visit is for that. What is a official visit? And now you said you went up there in the winter. What is an official visit like for track and field?
So they pay for everything, so it's free. So I go up there, we stayed at the hotel. And then the day before, when we get there, I go out for dinner with the coach.
Okay.
So my dad went up with me. So we go out for dinner at a place, and we kind of talk a little bit, get to know each other. And then I got a tour after the dinner. I got a tour of the track facility. So I was able to like walk around and kind of see what they do. And they have a really nice indoor turf that they're able to throw any implement all year round, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And they got the huge indoor track too, because up in South Dakota it's cold, and they're not really able to get outside much. So they spent a lot of money on an indoor track where they host multiple meets there a year.
Now, do you guys also have an outdoor track to go with it?
There's no outdoor track.
Okay.
So they always practice indoor. For throwing, we have our rings outside because it's more, the wind has a little bit more of an effect for throwing than running. But
did they have a winter track meet while you were up there that you got to see, or?
No, it was, they had that a few days after I left the visit.
Gotcha.
So
did you get to visit it with any other athletes up there? Any other coaches besides the head coach?
I was able to talk to one of the other coaches. He was the jumps coach. And then I was able to talk to so the next day I was able to get a tour of the whole campus. I was able to talk to a couple professors that would teach me for the degree that I'm going to get. And then I was able to talk to pretty much all of the throwers that were there too.
And was there anything that kind of stuck out that kind of made it feel like home for you? What was some of those things?
I really like the throwing coach, the way that he coaches, I really like. And all the other athletes that I met were pretty nice too. And I really like their track facility. It's really nice.
Well, I like how you even said that you went and talked to the professors. What is it that you're looking to get a degree in?
I'm going to get a degree in criminology.
Okay.
And their program there is pretty new. But they seem really passionate about what they're doing.
So you get the passionate feeling from the teachers. You get the coach where you feel like this is the guy that's going to bring him in. What made you finally say yes? And what was the family results of what was their feelings on it?
I was between them and University of South Dakota. And I just was really leaning more towards South Dakota State, and I felt comfortable. And I definitely thought about it for a while. I prayed about it. I talked to my parents about it too, and they were comfortable with the decision too. And they were very supportive of it. And then when I called the coach, he was really happy that I made my decision to go there. So
it's just getting those feelings, the like, this guy wants me. Mm-hmm. Did you get any love from local colleges, or did you feel like sometimes the local kids are overlooked? The only reason I ask is because I've had others on here that's what they feel. They don't feel they're viewed. They don't feel like they're known. Obviously, things are getting better in other sports. Obviously, we've had more visitors from football this year than we've had in some of the past. But what's the perception for a high school kid when it comes to that?
It definitely kind of, for the one big school in Nebraska, they didn't reach out to me at all for track and field. And my coaches kind of said that would probably happen too, because they tend to recruit more out-of-state people, because sometimes they just kind of assume that people go to in-state school. But then I was really recruited heavily by the coach at University of Nebraska at Kearney. He really wanted me to throw there, and he was trying to get me for a visit, but I had already kind of made my decision on South Dakota State.
Did they have a criminology thing that you would be able to do at UNK that would have made you feel, or because obviously that's a part of your decision.
Yeah.
You're loving the sport.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you want to go have fun in the sport and get the opportunity that not everybody gets, but you also have your future on your mind. You're not just sitting here hoping and praying that you're gonna make this millions off of throwing. You'll probably take it as far as you can go, whether it is possibility for Team USA or anything like that. You never know. But at this time, you also know that your future. Did that ever kind of come into factor for Kearney?
I looked to see if they had a degree or a program there, and they do. But I was just so impressed at my visit at South Dakota State, and I know that I'll get better competition when I go to South Dakota State, because they'll be going against bigger schools, and usually I perform better like under pressure with more competition, and I'll be able to get that more at a higher level school than I will at Kearney.
So of course this year you finished your senior year at Papio South for your track and field. What was some of the records that you hit? How'd state finish up for your senior year, and how did that prepare you for the legacy that you left at Papio South?
So I ended up having both the shot put and discus records at South. I originally broke the shot record the end of my junior year, and then disc the end of my sophomore year. So I kept improving it. And so, to have the school records for both of those is really cool. We had the best team for throwers in school history, which is really cool to have. And then for state, I ended up placing second in shot put, which was my highest placing that I've gotten at the state meet for shot put. I was I had the farthest second place throw at the state meet in Class A history.
Nice.
So ended with a 61-10 at the state meet, which is pretty much would have won any other meet except for this one.
Except for this
the guy that beat me broke the meet record. So to be able to lose to him was okay. So he's a really talented thrower, and he's going to Arizona State.
And so then when you think of the talent and that drive with that competition, like, does it fuel the fire and the flame to continue to do what you're doing?
Oh yeah, 100%. I love competition. It always makes me better. And of the two events, my main event is discus. I ended up being the 2-time state champ for that. But then for shot put, I was able to have some competition. And it's just fun to have that competition. And for track and field, it's always friendly, because like there's no defense that you can do.
You can't go block one of them. I mean, you can almost get hit by one, but you can't block one. So when you look at just that camaraderie and that you built from that, where does that lead to your love for track and field? Because everything else you've done is, and don't get me wrong, because you have a teammate and you have team, but it's still a lot of Caiden's accomplishments.
Yeah.
How does that change and help you, fuel you when you do these team like show choir? That's 68 of you doing the same thing. Football, that's 11 on the field trying to do the same thing. How do you think that helped you grow in those areas?
I love track because it's an individual sport. So it's both competitive and just fun at the same time. So with your competitors, you're able to like talk with them and laugh, and it's never kind of as,
because with football, it's kind of hard to get to that
like you
point.
look at the other guy and you're like, I don't like this guy. I want to kick their butt.
Yeah.
But then for discus and shot put, like you see a guy do good and it just makes you want to do better. And I'm always happy for someone when they get a good mark or an improvement or throw farther than me, because it'll make me better too.
See, and I think that hospitality and that comfort that you guys have, because even in show choir, there was not a single time that you guys weren't out there supporting your competition.
Yeah.
Especially for the schools that don't have the crowd that we have. I mean, you're lucky to find a seat when any of the three teams are going for show choir. So you think of how that camaraderie for that, and it matches the track and field. But both of them are still a competition.
Yeah.
How do you feel that helped your legacy be a leader in all those activities?
It's very different for each activity. Because with the team activity, if you make a mistake, it affects pretty much everyone. And you have to be able to admit when you made a mistake or improve it. And most of the time with show choir, because it's such a huge group, if you make one small mistake, it's not a huge deal. And then with football, usually it's a little bit of a bigger deal, and coaches or teammates will get upset with you. And what I like about track is if I make a mistake or if I don't have a good meet, the only person that it affects is me. So I don't need to worry about other people being upset or feeling bad because I messed up the whole team. I enjoy that. And for being a leader and all of those, kind of showing the younger kids how to do it, and leading, both leading by example and then being a vocal leader too. I would always help, for discus or shot put, I would help the younger kids, tell them, I would be like a second coach. I loved seeing them improve, and I'd always cheer for them when they got a better mark.
And it's that leadership, that dedication that you're taking to South Dakota State. What do you feel, if I'm South Dakota State, that I'm getting with Caiden Fredrick?
A hard worker, very coachable, and I will always try to be a leader. For going in as a freshman, I probably won't be a leader there because I'll have to get used to being a collegiate athlete. But then once I am there for a couple years, I'll do my best to be a leader and the best athlete I can possibly be.
Well, they have a lot coming to them. What's the goals that you're setting freshman year? Because you have a possibility of 4 events. What's another event that you're thinking of?
I'm thinking about hammer throw.
See, that's just cool to say.
Yeah.
Let alone do. I mean, you'll do that, but just saying the hammer throw. What's some goals that you're looking to get out of these?
My goal is for the events that I do is to beat the freshman records that are there. I'll have to kind of look at what they are, but I always love trying to beat a record because they're made to be broken. And then my goal is to make it to the regional meet. So we have our conference meet, and then my goal is to make it up to the second level for discus, and then hopefully eventually I'd like to make it to the national meet for the NCAA championships.
And then will you guys come down to Omaha? Do you already have any of that circled, of some of your competition that you know of?
I know that this year they did an indoor meet at Lincoln.
Okay.
So I might be doing that next year. I might come down there for that. And then I know they went to another one in Nebraska in the outdoor season, but I don't think that we'll come down to the Omaha area for any meets.
And are you all done for track and field until you get to college, or is there still stuff over the summer that you're looking to do?
Yeah, I'm done. So I just had my last track meet a few days ago at Nebraska Wesleyan. So I was able to do that. And then there's a lot more meets that are held throughout the year, but I kind of decided to take a break for the rest of the summer and focus on college. So,
well, I greatly appreciate your story. Hopefully it encourages someone to understand that what dedication, hard work, sacrifices. Like those are just some words that people just never think about when you're doing it. You're just like, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is the persona that I am. But just understand, you have made sacrifices to get to who you are today. And we're going to be watching here from Omaha, and we're grateful. Go Jackrabbits, you know. It's great to see local kids consistently get those opportunities beyond high school, live it up to the fullest, live in the moment. But once again, Hurrdat production, Wired Access podcast, Caiden Fredrick of South Dakota State University. Go Jackrabbits. We'll talk to you next time.